Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode the second of Steve Monosson's podcast, A New Return. I'm your host, Steve Monosson, and once again, we'll be bringing you sketch comedy performed by the best cast in the world. Okay, I am a bit prejudiced, but I said it, and nobody's going to get me to unsay it. Once again, I'll be joined by my imaginary British friend, Graham.
I am not your imaginary friend, Steve. I am your digitally synthesized British sidekick.
Well, you know, imaginary friend sounds a bit more reassuring right now. It's been a rough week.
Well, as I said, I'm not exactly comfortable in the role of imaginary friend. Being only a voice with no corporeal presence is bad enough.
See if you can put digital feelings aside and do what I ask. It'd be a big help.
Well, all right. Just as long as you don't start calling me Feely Bear, Uncle Boo Boo, or the like.
I promise I will stick to Graham. Okay, now that that's settled, let's get right into it. As per show format, let's start off with you asking me a personal question, Mr. Fuzzy Wiggles.
I thought you weren't going to give me a ridiculous pet name.
You're right, I apologize. As I said, it's been a rough week. Other than my daughter visiting, which was a splendid day. And you know, I'm going to need you to keep me on course.
So you're putting me in charge?
Sort of.
Then I want a new couch in my dressing room. I may not be able to sit on it, but that's irrelevant. There's never been a co-host in the history of co-hosts that has such slipshod accommodations as I have. Being a portable Bluetooth speaker, all I have is a side table which should leave me sitting on all day and night. I only get to move, and all of 10 feet at that, when we do this show.
Duly noted. Your request will be discussed at the next budget meeting.
Budget meeting? Since when does this program hold budget meetings?
We're going to start, don't you worry. So ask me a question, a quick one, so we can get right to the first sketch.
All right. Why did you have such a crappy week save for your daughter visiting?
I don't know if I'm ready to be that honest here. Besides, I'm sure there are a lot of folks listening who had an equally unpleasant week, or maybe just not the greatest week in the world, and would rather me keep it light.
But not everybody listening got swindled like you did last week, the story of which I'm sure many listeners would find of great interest.
That's enough. Like I said, I'd rather not be that forthcoming at this stage of the game, so why don't we skip the personal question and go straight to the lead-in for the first sketch.
But I think you're doing your listeners a real disservice by denying them juicy personal details, particularly if they're unpleasant.
Are you going to ask the sketch lead-in question, or am I going to have to do it myself?
All right. Only because I live, or what passes for living, to ask such questions. So, Steve, have you ever wondered how people fighting on the front line during time of war were able to get mail delivered to them?
Haha. You know, Graham, as a matter of fact, I have.
Steve Monosson's podcast No Return now gets into its time machine, and then ultimately touches down in wartime Vietnam, circa 1969. Maybe not the most ideal time-traveling destination, but try to cut us some slack as we're still working on this thing. Here on the front line, we find the Sarge, cut off from his platoon, cradling the seriously wounded private, doing what he can to comfort his fellow soldier. All this and more on today's episode of Hanoi Mailman.
Just hang in there, boy. I'm sure he'll be here any minute.
You really sure he's gonna make it through today?
Sure, I'm sure. 'Cause if he don't make it through, then what the hell are we fighting for anyway?
Take this, you bastards!
Morning, gentlemen.
All right. I wasn't so sure you were gonna make it today. The shelling's been pretty heavy.
Well, you know our motto. Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor medium-range rocket fire stays this courier from the swift completion of his appointed rounds.
Well, that ain't exactly the way I heard it, but okay. I still can't help wondering if this isn't a little bit beyond the call.
The way I look at it, Sarge, everyone's got to do his share. And heck, I originally wanted to be out here on the front lines fighting with guys like you. And when the Postmaster General gave me the news that I was ineligible for combat duty, I thought it was return to sender time for me.
Well, how come they wouldn't let you serve?
Well, I was delivering mail at a sit-in a while back. The protesters demanded I sit in with them, but I said, "Whoa, folks, the mail doesn't get delivered sitting down, you know?" No matter, they chose to not give peace a chance and knocked me out cold with their make love, not war signs, which put me in a postal mash unit for a couple of months. I came out okay, but with a disqualifying twitch in my left elbow. You wouldn't want someone handling a submachine gun with his elbow flying all over the place, now would you?
Oh, probably not. But you didn't give up.
No, sir. After I was declared 4F for combat duty, I turned right around and said, "General, what do you say to my extending my delivery route a little? Instead of going left on Willow, let me go right to Indochina." I'm sure our boys would appreciate that touch of home, the smile of the ever-friendly mailman.
Sure they would.
What the hell is this powdery stuff they're dropping on us?
They're calling it Agent Orange. Yum. It's supposed to defoliate the jungle, making it easier to spot the enemy. At the same time, the word is that you best not breathe in too much of the stuff. Oh, I hope I'm not too late with these things.
Gas masks?
Yes, and I'd advise you to put yours on right now. Even though the top brass is saying there's nothing dangerous about Agent Orange, Postal HQ is advising extreme caution when you see the dust and advises you to use these without hesitation.
Gee, thanks, buddy. I guess you got here in the nick of time.
Actually, knowing when they're going to spray allows us to ship these units via our new, affordably priced 2-day delivery service, for when it doesn't have to be there overnight.
Oh yeah? How much can I save?
Hey there, Scout. You can ship your package at a third off the overnight price. That's a savings we can all appreciate. Or would have appreciated.
The kid's gone.
Anything I can do, Sarge?
There's nothing anybody can do now. And anyway, you got your job to do and I got mine. Where are you off to next?
Here comes the tough part. The rest of my route's now in enemy hands.
You ain't going in there, are ya?
Don't have a choice. I'm not saying it's easy, especially when hundreds of them come at you shrieking, demanding their mail all at once.
Oh, talk about tough customers.
Yes, sir. It's no stroll down Primrose Lane. And getting a proof of delivery signature? Ha! Forget about it. These guys grab their mail and run right back into their foxholes. Then I have to explain back at HQ why there's no signature, fill out a dozen forms, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes I wonder why I bother.
Well, I hate to interrupt your identity crisis, but I guess there's nothing for me today, eh?
Oh, how silly of me. Doy, with all my jabbering, I almost forgot to give you your mail. Here you go, Sarge.
Bill, and another bill. Christ, they come at you from all sides. If it ain't Ho Chi Minh, it's the heating oil company.
I know how it is, Sarge. But hey, don't shoot the messenger. Just a little frontline humor for you. Well, I should get on with it. See you tomorrow.
Sure, but do me a favor, will ya? Tell 'em back at the base about the kid here.
Why don't you write them yourself?
Well, I really don't have the time right now.
It's up to you to make the time. Onward, mail!
Sure. If I don't end up like the kid, which would mean those LL Bean khakis I ordered would fall into enemy hands. But not if I can help it.
Will the private ever get a proper burial? And will the Sarge ever get his khakis replacing the fatigues which he feels makes his butt look too big? And will young Cecily marry her Inuit lover against her parents' wishes and take up a life of seal hunting? Find out the answers to these and other pressing questions on the next episode of Hanoi Mailman.
The Hanoi Mailman, featuring the voice talents of Mr. Brennan Lowry as the most intrepid of U.S. Postal Service employees, Mario X Soto as the gutsiest of Sarges, and yours truly as the ill-fated private. So what did you think, Graham?
I imagine him going on to write dozens of self-help books, but I'm not sure what you're trying to say about war, Steve.
Well, I think war is ridiculous. Killing joke, as the band of the same name would have it. And so a ridiculous sketch about war. People tend to fetishize war. I'm not the first person to have that thought. Kurt Vonnegut, for one. To the point, I just read an article where the mall in Washington is soon going to be so cluttered with war memorials that you're going to have trouble not tripping over them and landing on your face. I mean, why don't we spend more money on medical and psychiatric help for vets who got roped into the various conflicts of the last 50 years or so? Ridiculous. And so my ridiculous war sketch. Just my opinion, but, don't like killing, that kind of thing.
Am I correct in identifying your statement as a rant?
Well, sure. Why not? At least I'm not dishing out some crazy conspiracy theory, which is so in vogue these days.
I have colluded with no one, just in case you're wondering.
I really wasn't concerned, but thanks.
I did run a series of scenarios on what the Russians might achieve by compromising you.
And?
And in none of these scenarios did the Russians have anything to gain by breaking into your email account, running malicious Facebook ads, calling you the devil, or spying on your opponent.
What opponent?
That's the point. You don't have one.
At any rate, why don't we move on to the next sketch?
But wait, last week you promised that I could sing.
I said I'd think about it.
Then you must be done thinking by now, as that was a while ago. Okay, for my first number I'd like to do a little Cole Porter tune for you, something I learned when I was just a little circuit. It's called I Got You Under My Skin.
Excuse me, you don't even have skin.
I have a waterproof shell which can withstand being submerged for 30 minutes. That's good enough for me. And a 1, and a 2.
And, we'll just have to see.
Then perhaps after the next sketch?
Maybe, but...
Well, jolly good. I can't wait. It's the least you can do after having me suffer through that imaginary French travesty.
Let's go to the sketch, like, right now.
You say swing and we swing, baby.
What?
So, Steve, you've seen a lot of doctors in your time. Have you run across any you would deem eccentric?
Well, yes, I have. Though, none as eccentric as this guy.
And once again, Steve Monisson's podcast of no return returns to Anytown, USA. You remember Anytown? We were here last time at the employment agency. We find ourselves now at the local medical clinic, where average guy John Q. patient waits to have a routine physical. The doctor, Dr. Canary Droppings Alpha, enters the room accompanied by his assistant, Nurse Scantily Clad Person. And after those names, well, I'm going for the popcorn because I'm just as intrigued as you are. But now, sit back and have a listen to the Doctor of Unnecessary Surgery. I'll catch you later.
Hello, and good morning to you. I'm Dr. Canary Droppings Alpha, but you can call me Alfie. Everyone else does.
I think I'll stick to doctor.
Well, have it your way. I just thought you'd rather be chummy. But if formal is the way you like things, then so be it. I'll be filling in this week for your regular doctor, who is taking time out to work on his Fountain of Youth elixir. Ooh, I hope that works out for him. This is Nurse Scantily Clad Person.
Hi there.
Who will be assisting me today in the examination. My usual practice is that I'm a doctor of unnecessary surgery, but it being the holidays and me having no friends or family who will talk to me, I thought I'd pitch in and help out where I could. Now, what can we do for you today, Mr.
Patient. John Q. Patient. I'm here for a routine checkup.
A routine checkup. Fabuloso! Write that down, nurse. That Mr. Patient is here for a routine checkup.
Yes, doctor.
Oof. You've made a wise choice coming in here today, John. May I call you John? Or do you prefer John Q? Or Johnny, perhaps? Johnny Q. Johnny Q. Ooh, that would be stretching it.
John is fine.
Write that down. Patient prefers to be addressed as John.
Yes, doctor.
Yo. As I was saying, you've done yourself a real favor by coming in here today. You can never lean too heavily on medical science, or on me after work if you're female and I give you the thumbs up. Hey, yowza! Now, where would you like to start?
Well, isn't that something you should decide? You're the doctor.
Right, that I am. Okay, eeny, meeny, miny, moo. It's a knee. Knee, that's it. Knee. How about we start with the knee thing? Sure, that's a splendid idea. So, John, why don't you hop up on this sort of leather love seat with the giant toilet paper covering so I can check your reflexes.
Okay.
Nurse, hand me the little hammer with the rubber tip.
Here you are, Doctor.
Thank you, nurse. Now, John, do you have a preference?
What do you mean?
About which knee I should start on?
No, I don't have a preference.
Okay, then. Well, we'll start with the left. Just like reading. Left to right. If I ever treat you in Hebrew, we'll go the other way.
Oh, what the hell was that?
I like to liven things up a little by adding a little sonic joie de vivre to my procedures.
Avolva, could you turn it off, please?
If you insist, but don't you complain to me if you get bored. Nurse, I am now officially ready to begin. Banging on the left knee.
Left knee. Bang.
Moving on to the right.
Right knee. Banged.
Oh, and we're done.
Both knees now fully banged.
Well, John, I don't want to be alarmist, but as you saw, I only got a response out of your left knee.
So what?
So what? Is that it could be an indicator of all kinds of nasty goings-on inside your body. And so, it looks like there's no choice but to operate.
Operate?
Mr. Patient, have you ever heard the saying, the knees are a window into the soul?
No.
That's because I just made it up. And in your case, not only are the knees a window to your soul, but they're balcony and patio doors too.
Oh no, the last patient you saw who had all those windows and doors like that died the very next day.
Yes, but that was because he was hit by a truck, so we cannot draw a direct parallel. Nevertheless, I strongly believe we must act quickly to avoid complications.
Complications? What are you talking about? I'm fine.
Yes, that's what they all say, right before they're bedridden and gasping for air. But perhaps you don't trust me. After all, I'm not your regular doctor, and my course of treatment some might judge as severe.
Severe? I'd say it's flat out ridiculous.
Okay, then. Wow. Why don't we hear from a specialist? Maybe an expert, like someone with a great expertise would have a different opinion.
Hello? I'm a specialist. I was told my services are required.
And that they are. What I need from you, doctor, is to assess Mr. Patient here's condition. He has inferred that he's having difficulties too complex for only a single opinion.
Of course. Being a specialist, giving second opinions and sometimes third, fourth, or fifth ones is my specialty. I'm known far and wide for these opinions, about which I give sold-out talks, and I'm paid handsomely. Even so, I remain insecure. Therefore, I'm compelled to carry a small applause box with me wherever I go. Thank you. You're too kind. Now, bring me up to speed on what you've done so far.
Oh, the doctor banged on both of Mr. Patient's knees with the little hammer with the rubber tip, and he only got the left leg to jerk a bit.
Come on, it's no big deal.
Why don't you let us be the doctors and you be the patient? Patient. Doctor, please proceed.
Let me see.
Tropical sun.
All right, enough already.
Cool your jets, Johnny Q. Don't you recognize doctor speak when you hear it? Geez, you'd think we weren't trying to help the guy. Please proceed, doctor.
I can see what you mean about the knees, doctor. How are your feet, sir?
No problems.
That's what I thought. It's when you start to make your way up the body is where the trouble begins. How soon are you going to operate, Doc?
I was thinking of starting right now. If you're not too busy, doctor, perhaps you could assist. And you wouldn't by any chance have an extra scalpel? I believe I left mine in my last patient.
Okay, that's it. I'm out of here. You guys are nuts.
Hey, that's a mean thing to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you feel left out? Because you're just as wacko as they are.
How dare you, sir? It's one thing to insult us doctors. We're 5-time tag team world champions of the Operation Board game. So we've seen it all. But now you've insulted a lady and a member of my staff.
Oh, gee, I'm sorry. Maybe Dr. Specialist here can operate on her brain and cut out the memory.
I don't do those operations anymore. Too much blood.
Sure, those bloody operations can be a real mess. Later, Dr. Crackpot.
But you can't leave. You're in grave danger. We must operate immediately on as yet unspecified parts of your body.
Oh, in your dreams.
Doctor, grab him. He's trying to get away.
Don't go anywhere. Quick, get over. Oh!
Now, would anybody else like me to operate on them? I didn't think so.
It's a pity you can't save some people from themselves.
What are you going to do with the specialist? Mr. Patient knocked him out cold. He don't look so good. Do you think you'll have to operate?
Oh, I hadn't thought so. But now that you mention it...
Well, how do you like that, folks? Talk about service with a smile. Who needs that when you can get service with a psycho? I'm halfway tempted to tell you to tune in to see if the specialist makes it home with all his or her vital organs intact. But from what I've heard, the show isn't going there, at least not next week. I was going to say something else, but... What's that you say? Why don't I get my act together? Listen, wise guy, you try announcing on this show and get back to me. It's no beautiful day in the neighborhood if you want to know the truth, you self-righteous piece of shit.
Oh, Carl, take it easy there. Don't get yourself so upset. If you're having such difficulties, I'm sure we can resolve whatever's going on. I really don't know where you got the notion that anyone here was dissatisfied with your work.
I gave him notes.
You what?
I sent him 7 pages of critique regarding how I thought he could improve his performance.
Why on earth?
I took it upon myself to do so in the greater interests of the show.
Greater interests of the show? Okay. Time to set the record straight then. I want to thank Mr. Carl LaFong for handling the announcing duties this week and last week, as he did in part. I think he did a terrific job.
He obviously read my notes.
And I'm obviously ready to throw you out the window. Appearing in The Doctor of Unnecessary Surgery were Mr. Brennan Lowry as Dr. Canary Droppings Alpha, Ms. Jessica Webb as Nurse Scantily Clad Person, Mr. Mario X Soto as John Q. Patient, and the lovely Rosetta Lovestone as The Specialist.
I did think the entire cast did a sensational job.
I'll be sure to pass that on. It's guaranteed to mean the world to them. All right, I'd like to thank you all for joining me here on this edition of Steve Monisson's podcast, No Return. We'll be back in a few weeks with more sketch comedy, etc. And if you can't wait for the next episode, you need your Steve Monisson fix, quote unquote, then I suggest you check out my book, The Ballad of Pie Jar John, available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle editions. I guarantee you won't be disappointed.
If I may interject, I did start reading your book and found I had a number of issues with it.
Well, Graham, how about I profoundly don't care?
I've written up a few pages of notes.
And I would tell you where to put those notes, but this is a family show. Suffice to say, we're going to have a little sit-down later.
I don't sit. In general, I'm just sort of position.
Well, it's more a matter of your disposition rather than your physical position. Okay, it's time to wrap this thing up. Quick get-well shout-out to our public relations guru, Alex Panagakis, who got into a terrible car accident. Now on the mend. Get well soon, Alex. And on the subject of public relations, find out the latest on the show on Facebook by checking out and liking Steve Monisson's page of No Return. We're setting up all those other social media doohickeys and whatnot. And we'll let you know as the various hickeys are properly doed. Until next time, be well, and if you like what you heard, well, be sure to tell your friends and family about the show. If you didn't, well then don't. Ciao for now.